Two questions. One is, do you think that Ukraine has been allowed to fight as much as they'd want to? Have they been enabled by the West? And two, if they were enabled more by the West, do you think they would make more progress on the battlefield?
They have not. They have fought like wolves with what they've had. The West slow-walked a lot of equipment to them at the beginning, and that was to their detriment. I could say, like, hey, if we had given them this amount of equipment, this amount of whatever, things would be different. But while we're dreaming, I want a pony. I can't go back, and I can't change that stuff, right? We have the army, like Donald Rumsfeld said, we go to war with the army we have, not the army we want, or we wish we had, right? That was kind of number one. Number two, could they take back their land? I think they could. I don't see Ukraine winning in the sense of there is a ceremony on a battleship, in Moscow, right? I don't see that happening. What I see is, I think it's certainly possible that if Ukraine can destroy the Kerch Strait Bridge, it makes Russia's position in Crimea untenable.
That bridge is the thing connecting the east part of Crimea to the land and
to Russia proper. So it's a bridge.
And they could retake Crimea in your mind if they could get that bridge.
If they can take that bridge down, then it's going to be a lot harder for Russia to move supplies. One of the things Ukraine is amazing at is what's called shaping operations. Right? So you're trying to shape the battlefield. And they're really good at that. If they can take out, I think this year will be the year they do it. They take out the bridge.
What does that look like? Sorry, I'm sorry to be so pedantic. But when you say like shaping operations, it sounds really interesting. Like I think of like a couple of like the stories of like Ukrainians, like the one Ukrainian man like risking his life to blow out that important bridge, pretty early on, like almost 2 years ago now. When you're talking about shaping operations, what does that actually mean? Like what is what is Ukraine doing that's unique that makes them, as you say, kind of shape the battlefield in the way that they want it?
So a shaping operation sets up the victory conditions for the future.
So blowing up bridges, stuff like that. And instead of worrying about stuff on the tactical level, they've also had other teams blow up Russian oil refineries or try to destroy ships. And each one of these things is a pinprick that makes it harder for Russia to supply and to fight. Okay.
So what I see is that I think Ukraine could cut off Crimea, and at that point, now we enter negotiations. Does Ukraine take back the Donbass and Crimea? I don't think so.
Do you think it's more likely that they could take back Crimea versus the Donbass?
Maybe.
Because I feel like Russia would be more incentivized because of Sevastopol and everything to protect Crimea and their entry to the Black Sea versus...
I mean, they can want it all they want. When they have the lift to supply troops there via the ocean, that's another story, right? But I think if you can cut off Crimea and you can draw a wedge between the Donbass and Crimea, then what you have is an end to operations, and Ukraine is now negotiating from a position of strength instead of weakness. Do I see them capturing, killing every single Russian in the Donbass, Zaporizhia, and Crimea? No. But I think they could force Russia's hand, go to the negotiating table from a position of strength. And what I see, honestly, is a peacekeeping force made up of various, maybe non-aligned nations. You see like India and Bangladesh and Fiji, and these nations, they create a peacekeeping force inside Crimea and the Donbass. But that might be some kind of A zone, B zone, C zone of, Ukraine is allowed to have a certain number of tanks here, Russia's allowed to have a certain number of tanks here, and the peacekeepers enforce that. And Ukraine doesn't necessarily get their land back, but they get to open up trade
routes.
And
you think they reasonably could do that in Crimea if we unlocked the armories?
We're going to unlock the
them?
F-16 soon.
That is okay. That's true.
And that, with the F-16, what do you have? Well, you have air dominance.
Jet?
It's a jet. Absolutely correct. It's a jet. So the F-16 is a jet that America authorized. I think it was Belgium and Denmark.
And when you say unlocked, does that mean that they will just have access to the F-16?
They'll have access to the
and they've
F-16.
got their pilot. I think they're training now on them, right?
Training now. And with the F-16, you have what's called the AMRAAM missile, the AIM-120. And this is a long-range missile. Nothing Ukraine has now can go as far as that missile. Now, Russia has longer-range missiles, but it's going to force Russia to pull back. They got to pull back even further, right?
Just to clarify this, because I didn't even realize this until like months ago. I thought that when planes shot missiles, I thought that it was within a mile at most when they're shooting at each other. But when we say
Miles
long-range
away.
missiles, yeah, I think like 10,
88
20,
miles, I
30.
think?
Oh, okay, 88 miles. Yeah,
I think
these are
that's the
planes they can
AMRAAM.
shoot.
So two planes are shooting at each other 80 miles away.
Not
Yeah, you'll
necessarily
never even
planes,
see each
but
other.
air to surface that you can fire at targets from.
Oh, yeah. Two planes, they might, you'd have your AWACS, which is that Airborne Early Warning Control System.
The balloons?
Oh, well, that's PTIDS. Close. That's fine. So, did you ever see the movie Independence Day? No. Okay. Well, there was an AWACS Independence Day. There's a little rotating radar dome on it.
Okay, yeah. I can
And
imagine
so that plane might be flying, and it tells the fighters, okay, you got bad guys. They're 120 miles away. Turn to climb to Angels 30. Turn to 80. And you'll be able to pick them up on your radar, and then these planes will be able to fire. Sometimes the planes won't even know that they're being targeted.
Right.
They'll know when they're illuminated, right? But I think some missiles like the AMRAAM, you can actually fire, and then its self-guiding radar turns on a little bit later.
Do you think Ukraine has the necessary coordination to operate that plane in an active military theater?
They will. They don't now.
Okay.
They will. I mean, they're doing deconfliction, Joe. They're doing deconflict. Actually, they're actually pretty good at it because right now, with the way things are in Russia, they have a lot of ground controllers that are using ground radar to figure out where Russia is. Because right now, when Russia will fly these combat air patrols, and they'll fly them over their territory, and when they see a Ukrainian helicopter pop up, they'll vector fighters toward that. They'll start firing missiles. Well, the ground control, the Ukrainians will see that, and they'll tell the helicopter, get down on the ground right now. And they'll get down. That's why they can't do medevac, right? I mean, Russia will just shoot them down,
Right.
right? So, I think they can. So with that F-16, you can establish air dominance. And if you establish air dominance, the next thing you have are anti-radiation missiles. So these are missiles that go after the radar of the surface-to-air missile radar sets.
That are shooting down like planes and
That
stuff
are
like
training down planes. The HARM anti-radiation missile. They were able to like cobble together kind of like a little trailer park HARM launcher on some of their jets, on their MiG-29s. They're able to fire those things. And now you have integrated sensors on the F-16 that can do, as soon as they see that radar illuminate, they can find it and shoot it. Right now, I think they have to go after pre-planned targets. They have to load the software beforehand. But now, with the F-16, the integrated operations system, you can say, oh, that thing just popped up, fire a missile at that radar. So now, what do the Russians have to do? They have to pull back further. So their surface-to-air missile batteries have to pull back further. Now people at the front are exposed. Now we get into the JDAM, the Joint Direct Attack Munition. There's another acronym. All right, so now you got the JDAM. And the JDAM and the JDAM-ER, they are these, ER means extended range. So like a little bomb that you drop and fins pop out and it glides to its target, right? So now they can use these JDAMs against Russian positions on the front line, and they can do it free from surface-to-air missile fire, free from harassing fire from Russian fighters.
Because of the radio emission, whatever.
Yeah, well, they fired the anti-radiation missiles at the SAM launchers.
Yeah.
They pulled them back, and now they have battle space dominance in the air.
To go back to the video game thing I said yesterday, that if you have one hole in your defense, if there is a hole that slowly starts to open up every other part of the battlefield and you lose everything, essentially.
Now you got those JDAMs coming
It's
down.
the difference of the parity between offensive and defensive.
The Russia obviously knows this is coming. The F-16 is no secret. I think they're supposed to have those systems online, I think, the second half of this year.
Yeah,
where I think we're coming. So what is Russia's counterplay to this? Certainly they're not just going to pull back and watch everything fall apart. There has to be some...
They're probably going to surge as many aircraft in the air as possible and try to get a political victory. Look, it's not that hard to shoot down a
F-16.
F-16, but here's the disadvantage. How long have they been flying those jets? About 2 years now. They've been riding them hard, right?
Oh, the Russian side jets.
You talking about like pilot attrition or?
No, well, pilot attrition, but maintenance.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
So how long they've been riding those jets hard,
Whereas
right?
the F-16s will
So
be
how many
riding.
maintenance cycles have they missed?
When we talk about numbers of aircraft, has it been stated? It must be. How many F-16s are the Ukrainians getting?
I think it's 48. around
48.
there.
What is the
48,
size
44.
of like Russia's air force for like planes that can
Very
shoot
big.
down F-16? Like in the
Very big.
like tons of hundreds or?
I want to say 300 to 500, but they're not all operational at the same time.
Okay.
So
Do
you
you
might
think-
have a sortie rate, like you might be able to generate 50%.
I appreciate that, Destiny.
All right. Bye. Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.